Again, I have approximately 21 hours left until I can begin my Easter holidays as well, at which time I will get to get up at a sensible time and actually have enough sleep. First things first, though. So, someone found it. I've forgotten who found it. Who found it for me? Anu Balori Delana. Thank you very much. So, we're going to have this sorted once and for all.
Sorry, no current plans for Gnome Paladins, but
Damn.
maybe.
His name's Mr. Gnome Paladin. You ruined his screen name.
I know. We want to, like, we try to be as flexible as possible when it comes to, you know, the race class combinations. Part of it is like the nature of Paladins. It's this like orderly dedication to the light, this combination of things that feels somewhat at odds with gnomish nature.
So there it is. I keep telling people, someone actually found it for me. Thank you very much. If you're actually in the chat. Hi, Elbin. How? Alisarian. So there, well, I knew it's, you know, someone had showed me around about BlizzCon and I watched it myself. And then, hi, Fraser. And I, you know, then it was gone. When I went to the same link again, it was gone. So I couldn't record it. But there it is. I was watching, by the way, that flat earther you sent me, the one who sent himself up in the rocket. It was on the BBC News. It was on the BBC News. And it had this little featurette video about why do people think the earth is flat. It was spectacular. There was this one woman who said, yeah, so, you know, because she was asked by the interviewer, so why do you think the earth is flat? She said, oh, well, I watched 50 hours of video. Yeah, okay. And then I did my own tests. Really? And what were these tests? See, what I got is I got this flat edge and I went to the beach and I walked along the beach. Yeah, the earth's flat. Okay, thanks very much for that. Sounds like this is the you think you do, but you don't have no one wants no paladins. People only say they want gnome paladins to annoy me. Everyone knows it's not feasible. The problem is that, hi Morales, the vast majority of class race combinations should be allowed. You know, generally speaking, I would say that in a role-playing game, there is no reason not to have any race class combination. I see no reason not to have any race faction combination. It makes no sense to me. All right, faction's supposed to be a political affiliation, not a racial one. And with classes, again, there shouldn't be any racial restrictions. However, the problem is that Blizzard put gnomes into the game. That's what creates these problems. People don't see it. The reason why we can't just have any class race combination is gnomes. That's it. Yeah, it's their fault. If they didn't have gnomes, I'd be totally on board with any class race combination you want for anything. You know, that'd be all fine. Unfortunately, there's that one thing that can never be. Obviously, I don't play druids like a lot. I haven't really played it in Legion at all. But gnome druids don't make any more sense either. You know, so that's, you know, again, it's gnome scuppering it. I can think of no reason why other things shouldn't be druids, but, you know, they just can't. They just can't. You're so glad the Dark Iron Dwarfs can be paladins. Well, quite. I mean, that was one of the first things they actually announced. The mounts, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm that keen on the dwarf, the Dark Iron mounts. It's what you'd expect. You know, a little fiery hound thing. Like a bit of a core hound, similar to a core hound thing. It's what you'd expect, but... Actually, I say it's what you expect. What I was actually imagining... I should have got a picture of it. Well, many of you may know anyway. What I was actually imagining for a Dark Iron Mount, if anyone used to play or does Warhammer Fantasy Battle, if you remember the Khorne Juggernauts, oh no, I should get a picture. That was the sort of thing I was thinking of when it was originally announced about Dwarf Iron coming into the game. So, can I find a picture? I need a good one. Need a good one. Oh, this'll do. God. Hang on. Evening, Oggy. Yeah, the dwarf racial, yeah, that looks good. It's not in the alpha at the moment, though, because as soon as I saw that, first thing I did was made a dwarf paladin in the alpha and then tried to find it. It's not there. Which is a shame. But yeah, that does actually look quite good. So, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Should have been better prepared. Just put it into a random folder as well, where it doesn't belong. Never mind. So yeah, that you know, that's the old corn juggernaut from Warhammer, not the rider, obviously. That's the sort of thing I was imagining, something similar, like a big armoured thing to fit with Dark Iron Dwarf for their racial mount. So what we got was a core hound, and you sort of look at it and you go, yeah, well, that makes sense, Black Rock Mountain type thing. That's okay. What time frame does alpha become beta, or is it fluid? It is fluid because they're, you know, like what you've got to notice is, like even Ian Hazakostas calls it beta from time to time. It's labelled as beta in various places, and sometimes it's labelled as alpha. You know, Law was trying to explain their distinction between alpha and beta in that Q&A that they did. But ultimately, it's, I think the point at which they'll call it beta is when they've basically tested it, and it's almost like a pre-release ready, but they just want to get loads and loads of people in just to do the old stress testing and all that business, and to build up the hype. I think that's the point in Legion when they decided to call it beta, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. Hi, Tim, the Terrible Gamer. Before this starts up, do you think they will bake some of the artifact traits into the Azerite armor? Just going to let the specs. They may do some. I think there's a danger with the Azerite armor, because if they just take some of the, like, they could take artifact traits, they could take some legendary abilities, and they could. Yes, they could turn those into Azerite armor traits. The danger, if they do too much of it, is that people will accuse them of taking abilities away from us just to portion them back out. In other words, to keep us playing. It's almost like, oh, these are your abilities, right? We're going to take half of them away from you. In order to get them back, you've got to keep playing. That's not going to sit well. So they might do it with a few of them. A small number, but I don't think they're going to do it en masse, because, you know, they are going to be asking to be problematic. After they logged into Soulstream, oh, I couldn't believe it. You know, I thought I'll have a look what he's up to. We're going to be having a chat later. Now, when I'm off on Easter holes, we're going to be having a bit of a chat about speculation stuff anyway. And I thought I'll have a little look on the old stream there, and what was I greeted with? Gruesome gnome. What the hell? But anyway, there we go. Hi, Frozen Man. So, but yeah. So the only thing, like, in the alpha at the moment, I'm hoping that the new build will go out tomorrow rather than tonight. Can't remember, what day did it come out last week? I've forgotten now. But, you know, if it was tonight, boo-hoo. If it's tomorrow, then I can afford to stay up. I can only stay up a little bit tomorrow, actually. I've just realised, because I have to get up on Thursday morning. Like, normally, when it's the holidays, I get used to being able to just sleep in. Like, not get up. Unfortunately, Thursday, I've got some things arriving, including, of course, the Warcraft Chronicles Volume 3, because that comes out. Like, various people have got advance orders now, but it doesn't actually officially come out until Thursday, so that's when my advance order will arrive, which is quite nice, start of the holiday, but it does mean I have to be up, because I don't know when it's going to arrive. It can arrive any point that day. So I don't have the Chronicles 3 yet, because it's not available. At least it's not available in the UK. I keep seeing on, you know, MMO Champion, I think, was saying, oh, it's out now. No, it's not. It's not here anyway. It's released on the 27th. No, it is the 27th. What? I'm pretty sure. Hold on. Have I got something wrong? Might it arrive tomorrow? Oh, if it does arrive tomorrow, I'm not in. I'm at work still. So I'm not going to get it until Thursday. Should we put it that way? I don't get it until Thursday either way. Hi, Whittleton. So, okay. In that case, if they try and deliver it, or maybe a neighbour will get hold of it. I don't know. But I will not be able to get hold of it until Thursday. It'll probably... most of my neighbours, I think, work, so they'll not even find anyone in. And I actually do have a nominated safe spot, but the last Amazon guy noted you can't have that. Because my nominated safe spot is my recycling bin. Which is fine. But apparently they have this list of things they're not allowed to do with it. Like, he was reading it as behind the bin. He says, and I said, no, not behind the bin, in the bloody thing. It's a recycling bin. The only thing that ever goes in there is cardboard anyway. And in fact, the only thing that goes in my recycling bin is Amazon cardboard specifically. So, you know, it would feel well at home. It's empty at the moment anyway. So, yeah, they have a bit of an issue with that. So they'll not leave it in there. Although one guy did once. Anyway, I don't know. But if they try and deliver it tomorrow, I'm not in. Unless it happens to be delivered after work, but before raid. So I cannot read it just yet. I have to wait. But yes. So at the moment, I'm mostly focused on like professions. I noted... because I've been testing out the professions a bit more as well since I last streamed. Oh my God, what's going on? Shut up. Right, turn the volume off on all this stuff. Right, there we go. Pizza boxes. No, there's no pizza boxes in there. I occasionally have, like, I don't know. Occasionally have pizza. There's none in there at the moment. At the moment, it's completely empty because the recycling, it's every 2 weeks. It's like 1 week they take out the normal stuff and another week they take out the recycling stuff. So last week was the recycling stuff, so it's empty. I haven't had anything else to add to it this week. I know, it's just, I don't know why it suddenly just did that. Because I've got it open, of course, on the left, in case there's a technical issue that I need to see. But I don't see a technical issue at the moment. Oh yeah, I've done some more work on filtering out certain words on the channel. I'm not saying it's you know, exhaustive yet, but you know, I've improved it. So you should have, you can't do links. You should know that by now. So you can't actually do anything like that. The dictionary corner. Well, I just found myself doing it too often. I was having another one today. I've actually decided the other thing I should do, maybe I should add this to the Amazon order, is I need to get myself a big old dictionary for work, because the number of times I keep having to tell students off for using like American pronunciations because they just watch too much American telly. I had one today who actually was talking about YouTube, but he called it YouTube. Like, Americans say that, fine, fair enough. Said, but there's no, and he was trying to explain to me, like, which I've tried to explain to people, well, in different parts of Britain, people pronounce things different ways. True. But everyone throughout the British Isles pronounces it tube. And so I even got the Oxford English Dictionary, the online version, with the pronunciation. He still wasn't having it. So I need a big old book. Every time someone says that, it's in there. Have I watched Preacher's Test where he goes with a fresh account, going for heroic curve from the viewpoint of a new player? No. What's he trying to do? Because that's not what I thought it was. I thought it was supposed to be a guide for new players into how to gear up. If what he's trying to do is where he goes from fresh account going for heroic curve from the viewpoint of a new player, that doesn't sound as useful. Because where was I now? Yeah, because you can't do it from the viewpoint of a new player. He's not a new player. You know, he's an experienced player, and he's experienced at sort of getting into pugs and stuff like that. He's experienced at you know, playing the game. He will be able to do it a lot more easily than a new player. But if it's what I thought it was, which is from the point of view of guiding new players in terms of the steps to take, then, you know. But I haven't watched it, no, because I'm not a new player. Unfortunately, I don't actually get as much time to watch other people's content as I used to. I only get to really watch a few videos a week, I would say. So I'm not going to spend it watching guides on stuff I already know. I'll watch vlog. I mostly watch other people's vlogs. You know, if they've got something to say about a particular topic that I'm interested in, to get a different point of view. That's what I like there. A new account with no fly, no good. Yeah, I know that. But again, so if it's done as a guide, then that sounds quite valuable. If it's trying to be done to get a perspective from a new player point of view, I think less so, because he's not a new player. Like my rant video. Ian used vanilla as the only other justification other than PvP in his follow-up post. The vanilla argument, I think it was only a minor one, but it was, yeah, I didn't like that one because it didn't make sense. Because in vanilla, you had next to no abilities. Like, obviously as a Retribution Paladin, you literally had, as a Retribution Paladin, you had a seal, which you had to do every half a minute in theory. In theory, you had Judgment, but you had to be a little bit careful, because if you use that a bit too much, you run out of mana. That was it. You had a couple of damage seals. You had Seal of Righteous. You had Seal of Command, sorry. You had Seal of Crusade, which you used to debuff the target. So sure, you'd want to debuff the target. And Judgment. Now you had Exorcism, but that was only used. That could only be used on undead and demons. You could get Consecration, which, as someone reminded me recently when I was talking about it, was a holy spell, but it was very close to the top. Everyone got Consecration. But again, it was a mana killer. You couldn't actually use it unless you had a load of mobs. And even then, sparingly. So basically, your rotation was seal, judge, reseal, wait for Judgment to come off again. That was your rotation. Now, alright, other DPS classes had more buttons than that. But it still wasn't that many. So the fact that and also, not everyone even had a DPS cooldown in vanilla. Paladins did not have a DPS cooldown in vanilla. I don't think mages did. I don't think mages even had a DPS cooldown in vanilla. Because I had a mage at level 60, I should actually know. I've got to confess I can't remember. But I don't think they did. So, what's the point of even bringing vanilla up? Oh yeah, well, you know, because like everything was on the global cooldown. Actually, it wasn't everything; it was most things. Yeah, but we didn't have the abilities that you're talking about. Well, yes, that's exactly. Preach will play any character better than most people. Most new players, especially, will play their main. So yeah, but as doing it as a guide, I think that's sort of fair enough. Because to be honest, like I kept thinking about doing some guides for new players on various things, because it's probably a bit lacking. You know, to say there's so many videos on World of Warcraft, there are beginners guides out there, but there's not as many as you might think. Hi, Glaze. Does haste have anything to do with the global cooldown? Yes, it does. It has everything to do with it, in fact. I don't care anymore. It's been out for long enough days. If the Warrior and DK Theory crafters haven't cottoned onto this by now, Sodom. The biggest problem with this global cooldown thing, the biggest problem, the elephant in the room, is haste. Okay? Haste reduces the global cooldown. Now, for me as a Ret Paladin, it's not a massive deal, because as people keep trying to point out who are trying to defend this decision, oh, it just means you have to wait another second before you can go into your spenders and do your abilities. Yeah, for me, I'll get used to it. It'll be fine. Even for me, when like someone simmed the stat weights, it significantly increases the value of haste. But it's within, controllable bounds. If you do this for a Fury Warrior, a Frost Death Knight, or anyone else that's going to have a real issue managing these cooldowns, the value of haste skyrockets. And that's going to affect the other thing they've been trying to do this week. They have been trying to make it so that primary stat is more valuable. They need to make the primary stat much more valuable than any secondary stat for all classes and specs, so that item level becomes king. They need to get it so that A 5 item level upgrade should be a bloody upgrade. Should be. Definitely 10. That's what they said they've achieved in Legion. They haven't at all. There's pieces of gear that I turn my nose up that are more than 10 item levels above something else it's got. And nothing to do with set bonuses either. So they don't even have that now. So they need to do that. This works against it. Because some classes and specs, if they keep up with this, are going to be in a position where they need a certain amount of haste to reduce that global cooldown and manage that rotation. The value of haste will be massive, and it means there'll be situations where they have to turn down what are hefty item level upgrades. So haste has the things I talked about in that video are all valid, I think, anyway, but they are also a matter of opinion. The haste thing is not. That's a matter of data. Good, hard, solid data. If you do this, you are screwing over your own philosophy of making sure that item level is important. His latest video, Preacher, showcased how 4/5 of the Pug player base is really bad and toxic. No shit. This is why I avoid pugs. Like, at the moment, someone asked me yesterday, do I have Aman'Thuls yet? No, I don't kill Argus. And the reason I don't kill Argus is I cannot be asked to spend the time trying to get into I would do a normal Argus pug, right? If it was a case of, get into a group, maybe I don't even care waiting for an hour to do that. Into it, maybe the odd wipe, not bothered, as long as we kill it in a reasonable amount of time. Right, an hour and a half from start to finish, basically, in terms of starting to sign up for it, getting into an Argus group, killing Argus. But the fact that I don't think I can even do that, it puts me off. So I don't even try and do a pug Argus, not even a normal, to try and get Aman'Thuls. It's not worth the hassle. So because I'm not doing it with my guild, I'm not doing it. So I've got 0 chance of getting an Aman'Thuls. They had Pom. Was that a baseline ability? Can't remember. I forget now. I do forget. It's a long time ago. Wonder how. And it wasn't like a normal DPS cooldown. It was like just a instant casting. Wonder how it's going to be tanking with more stuff on the GCD. So that tanks. Well, I mean, my big gripe is when it comes to global cooldowns, throughputs of course should be on the global cooldown. That's what they exist for. Utility shouldn't. Defensives definitely shouldn't, because all their argument about the fact that offensive cooldowns are not reactionary, you plan for them. Okay, you can buy that as a philosophy. But defensives are by their nature reactionary. So are speed boosts. Speed boosts are often used defensively. They can be used strategically, but they often used defensively. Both of those should be off the global cooldown. The same argument for taking interrupts off the global cooldown, which is what they did in... Well, I think it was later in MOP. I remember there was a bit on MOP when they weren't, because Horridon was horrible with it on the global cooldown. The same argument for taking it off the global cooldown is the same argument for doing the same with defensives and movement speeds, at least. At the very least. Fire had combustion. I played Frost like almost every other mage anyway. So easy. Just Frostbolt. And hope for a thing is to shatter. They will just make CDs non-hasted. They might do. They might do that. I suppose they could argue would fix the problem. I mean, I don't think Fury Warriors would be happy still. But then again, Sodom. Too many Fury Warriors are played by gnomes anyway. Right now, Mastery is most important by far stat for Arms Warrior. I think it's Fury Warriors that are a particular problem. I mean, Fury Warriors have tended to want their haste in Legion as well. Making primary stats that strong means Titanforging would have an immense impact. Yeah, but it does anyway. And the impact of Titanforging, hi guys, I think could be. It depends on your point of view, because they're supposed to be reducing the chances of Titanforging in BfA, which means that for the lucky so and so's who get, you know, the thing we'll all be, you know, delighted to see, which is an LFR max Titanforge bit of BIS trinket or something. That means, because normally, like, if someone gets a piece of Titanforge gear, 980, 985 in something, and you just think, you lucky bastard. But you sort of have this inkling that maybe, you know, in a few months you might get something approaching it. Whereas if they reduce the chances of it, it's like, no, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. My Twitch video is named Argus. Bloody well better not be. What the hell? I changed that earlier. Oh my god. Thank you. I did change it. It's done this before to me. Pain in the arse. Save it. Doesn't seem to want to save it, does it? What? It's done this before, where it just completely ignores me. No, it's going to have to stay like that, sorry. I don't know. Sorry, where was I? Any news yet on the broken CD secret? Yeah, I'd revealed it. Sorry, you missed it. Currently, the DK scenes for 100 now. 5 show haste with 400 raw strength is 20. Oh, on live. Well, yeah. The Fury Warrior class fantasy, filling all the players with rage. Yes, very good. They can give them the retribution passive while they're at it. There's not been any movement on that, I've noticed, since they knocked down the duration to 10 seconds. Pretty sure the haste breakpoint for Fury is no less than... There is a point, yeah, I heard that. There is a point with Fury Warriors. But I don't know. You saw a 965 tier cloak drop from normal onto us on Sunday. I mean, annoying. I have a 980 tier cloak, obviously, yeah, it's from Mythic. Which actually annoyed me. I don't want that high, because that's preventing me trying to come up with a set of gear whereby I can wear my legendary cloak, which is what I prefer to wear. And every time I'm doing Mythic Argus now, I'm just thinking... Sometimes I think to myself, maybe I should just put the legendary cloak on anyway, because the problem is that I don't always get full use out of my DPS cooldown, apart from at the start of the fight. Because there's various things that can prevent you being able to do DPS at certain times, and you can't... There's no time when I can guarantee half a minute worth of being able to stand still and hit the boss. So, whereas the cloak would be useful all the time. And every time I have a good proc streak with my Divine Purpose ring, I just think, oh, I wish I had the cloak. Evening Ethos. Yeah, I have a 945 heroic tier helm, which is what annoys me as well. I've got so much gear that's really crap, and we're not re-cleared. We're never re-cleared after Argus. Sorry, Agrimar went down. Fury and Frost DK both dual wield, so they need 2 weapon drop. Yeah, they're not having my weapons. They can have 1 maybe before me, possibly. After that, they're waiting. They're not taking an offhand over me. And not that we've actually got... I don't think we've actually got a Fury... Have we? No, we have got 1 Fury Warrior. We've sort of got a DK, but his internet's a bit shit. Could you read it somewhere? I'll just tell you, Eris. Basically, haste goes a bit mad. With putting global cooldowns on offensive abilities means everyone's value of haste will increase, because haste reduces the global cooldown. For some specs, it increases a lot, like to a broken amount, a ridiculous amount. So, yeah. So the ones who are worst affected by it will be in a position where haste is just going to be too powerful, and they're going to have to turn down what should be upgrades for it. Well, obviously they'll sort of have to do something about it, but I don't know. The latest change is a good quality of life to the game. Yeah, but again, people going on about macros all the time. I don't understand the thing with the macros. I don't have any macros. I'm opposed to this from a personal point of view as well as just looking at it holistically. And I don't use any macros in my DPS cooldown. Nothing to do with macros. Obviously, if someone is using macros that macro loads of different things together, the issue there is not the fact that they're off the global cooldown. The issue is that they've got too many things that they need to press that's not a throughput ability. So, you know, that's Blizzard's class design. They need to reduce the number of non-throughput abilities that people want to be chaining together. You can only assume weapons won't have random stats in BfA. I'm not sure I would assume that. Also, to take into account BfA, there will be more weapon drop opportunities. Maybe. There's certainly more ways of getting stuff. But that's something I'm apprehensive about as well. How much am I going to feel compelled to have to do? You know, I'm not looking forward to it. It might get to the point where guilds can't even afford to raid more than 3 nights a week, because to fit in all the other stuff you have to do around raiding, you can't do it. So all guilds will be either 2 or 3 night guilds. I mean, I remember it's slowly reduced in time, because you do notice over the course of WoW, like even semi-casual. I was in really the main guild I was in Vanilla until the end of Vanilla was these days you would describe it as semi-casual or semi-serious, one or the other, half and half, doesn't really matter, does it? And we raided every night. You know, there were 8 raids a week. You had every evening. Not all of them were compulsory. There were 5 compulsory ones, plus 3 non-compulsory ones, plus a Sunday afternoon where I did a Zul'Gurub run. And then it's got slowly less. 5 was the norm for a while. Now, 3 is more the norm. 3 or 4. Maybe it's about equal. Even Mythic, I'm talking Mythic raiding even. You know, so even people who fully expect to get cutting edge, 3 or 4 is much more normal. The guild I'm in that does 4, that's excessive. That's a lot. 5 night guilds are almost unheard of. And yeah, and it might get to the point where even 3 night guilds are the upper limit for most people, because if they've got to do not only Mythic plus dungeons, but islands as well. I mean, the Warfront you can't spam anyway, because I don't know whether that's a once a week thing or a what. I think it's a once a reset thing. But even that you'd want to do with your guild, you would think, wouldn't you? So all this time. Crafted weapons will be best. Not the bloody crafted weapons I've seen so far, but I assume they're far from finished. Preach even started using Raid IO, inviting people with 3k rating, and people just fail massive. Of course they do, because these sort of... It's right, it's the classic phrase, isn't it? Einstein said this, and I'm always saying what a complete tool of a scientist Einstein was, but he was quite wise in human nature, even though he was an arsehole. And one thing he said was that not everything that matters can be counted, and not everything that can be counted matters. But this is it. People want to see a thing. Like, I get it in education. You have league tables. People want to assign a number to your effectiveness. And sometimes that's not possible. But then they can't compare you. They don't like it, so they want a number. And that's what these add-ons are like. It's a number that says, okay, you're this effective. But it's a load of crap. Absolute crap. I mean, it might, I'm not going to dismiss it completely, it might give you a higher probability of getting someone who's capable, but equally it may not. At this point, I'm thinking about going down to 2 nights in BfA. Too much. Well, Kisashi, I think a lot of people will. That's what I think will happen to guilds. I think, because I remember, just from a recruitment point of view, in WOD, so I was recruiting, and we got to a point in the guild where I could not, we were a 5-night guild, could not recruit. People were constantly telling me, it's too many nights. It's too many nights. I was watching them go, instead of choosing us, going to guilds that were like 200 ranks below us because they raided fewer nights. And I said to the guild, the wider guild, look, this is causing trouble. Because I was the one recruiting. I was trying to explain my problems with recruiting. The number one reason why we're not getting decent people is because we raid too many nights. And I even did a trawl of the top few hundred guilds. And there was like us and one other guild that was raiding 5 nights. And their attitude, a lot of the people's attitude was, no, because if we lose a night, we'll get less progress. Because they were equating time spent raiding with progress. But that's not how it works. You know, there's such a thing as effective time. You can raid 5 nights and it'd be totally ineffective. You know, sometimes it's better to raid fewer nights. And some people spend the time saved going through logs, looking up videos of other people killing it, coming up with strategies, help, finding weak auras other people have used to help you out, stuff like that. That is far more effective. But anyway, eventually we got to the point where we were basically getting close to not being able to field a raid team. And I said, look, you know, this is it. We're at the edge of the precipice here. People agreed to go down to 4 nights. All of a sudden, was able to fill the roster up almost overnight. Within a week, I had that roster going from, we went literally from a position where we did not have enough to do our Mythic raid night. Over the weekend, I got a couple of people, so we were able to put it on, and we killed a new boss as a result of it. And then over the next week, I was able to fill up the roster, and our world ranking suddenly shot up. It was overnight, just because of going from 5 days to 4 days. And I think, you know, guilds that are currently struggling to recruit, and there's a lot of them, just think to yourself, I would say think to yourself, are you absolutely getting good value for the amount of time spent raiding? Because the new dynamic is very much less raid time. You know, and if you think to yourself, could you actually drop a night and still get basically the same amount of quality raid time in? And if the answer is yes, it's worth doing, because you will find it easy to recruit. Because people think about that. You know, they think about you know, the number of nights that you raid and the hours that you raid, especially when they're trying to think of all the other stuff they have to do alongside the Mythic raiding. Riddleton. The reason I enjoy Raider.io is because the difference between a 2.5k and a plus 17 is night and day from 3.5k and 21. Today on your YouTube you uploaded 21 we did in time. Complete pug because the system had us know we were good enough for it. It may increase the chances of it, but the problem is I don't know exactly how the rating works, but if the rating is you know, if someone can somehow con their way into a pretty good group and get a good rating as a result of that and keep getting themselves into it, you know, you can still have someone that's getting carried all the time. And then what happens when you get 2 such people in a pug? Then all of a sudden you're not making it, because you can carry 1 person maybe a bit, carrying 2, different matter. Oh, but quality over quantity always, yes, I would say that, yeah. But I mean, sometimes you wouldn't. I mean, I'm not saying it's automatically the case that going down from 4 to 3, you'll probably find you do. Because if you don't substitute the saved day with some extra research, but that's the beauty of it as well. You don't expect everyone in the guild to do it, because not everyone in the guild will do it. There's people in top 100 guilds that will not spend a second doing research. They will look at videos they've been told to look at, but they won't do any research on the fights. You get that in much higher guilds. You don't think you can get to 3.5k? I don't know. I have no idea about the rating system at all. All I do know is that I wouldn't get into even a plus 15 based on mine, and which, you know, is fairly straightforward. And we did a plus 15 last night, and we were just laughing and joking through it as if we were doing a heroic. We weren't even paying attention to stuff. And whereas you can get some people with quite a high rating, because I've been in guild groups before where we've had to pug one person and they've been horseshit. They've actually killed themselves, pulled extra mobs, or wiped us in some comical but ultimately annoying way. And there you go. 15, yes, should be stupidly easy for someone who does Mythic Pluses a lot, indeed. But again, it goes back to the point for some people it's not. It goes back to in WoD, where you had to... I was saying... Did I say this last week? I was saying it at some point anyway. Where you had to get silver proving grounds to be able to do heroic dungeons. So when I was leveling up my alts and I was going into normal dungeons, and they were a real grind. And I was in one in particular, and I looked at this guy because his gear seemed pretty good from his stamina level. I inspected him. His gear's like, he's not getting upgrades from normal. What's he doing? Why doesn't he do heroic? And I looked him up on the armory, and he had bronze, like proving grounds. He didn't have the silver, and his gear was so good. He'd obviously got all the upgrades he could get from normal. I thought to myself, he must have been a good enough item level for heroic a long time ago. He's had a long time to get that proving grounds, and he must know how to do proving grounds because he's got bronze. He's just not been able to complete the silver, and it's not even gold, silver. You know, I was able to one-shot silver on characters I'd not even played on. I was just able to get characters to, you know, whatever, and throw some talents on them and get them to silver proving grounds first time. It's so easy. But there's some people for whom it's very difficult. And then what I found is when you go into heroic, all of a sudden it's a breeze because everyone's had to do silver proving grounds, and it filtered out all those people. So what I did after that with my group of alts is I got some very high item level BOEs and used to just put it in their bags to boost them past the normal stuff. So I could just go straight into heroic. Crap geared, but I don't care about that. But there you go. What level of Mythic Plus would I compare to TBC heroic? It's very difficult to say because obviously the memory can play tricks on you when it's that long ago. Also, the way you did dungeons was different. There was a lot more emphasis on crowd control. Whereas even now, obviously, if crowd control is going to be used at all, you could argue on a very high key it might. But just the general ways dungeons are even designed it's designed without that in mind. So I don't know that I'd want to say. Also, I suppose it depends on your level of gear. I mean, maybe 15 is roundabout where you would put it. Because, if you were decent players, in reasonable gear, even Heroic Shadow Labs, which was a pretty awful encounter because it's so long and so brutal, even that, if you went through with a proper group, wasn't actually terrible. You just had to be a bit careful. Wonder if you'll get some new content still before BfA. I am increasingly doubtful. I mean, obviously there's the pre-expansion patch, which technically will still be Legion. I mean, all I know is Afrasiabi was talking about there's so much story still to tell before BfA and how excited he was. We haven't seen any sign of it. Nothing's on the PTR yet. The PTR hasn't changed for ages. So I don't see a patch 7.4, if I'm honest. Now, they could surprise us, because they have surprised us before in Legion, but it's become it's becoming increasingly unlikely. So it might well be that we're talking July before we get anything new. Seething Shore is a total chore. Is that supposed to rhyme? I haven't even done that. Raid.io certainly will hurt more the people who just want to do 1 plus 15 each week. I mean, that's the boat I'm in. That's why I have to sort of wait around for a guild group to do it. And then there's been a couple of weeks actually in the past few months where I've actually forgotten. I forgot last week. I was in a guild group last night. We were just wanting to do a plus 15. And we were supposed to be doing some high keys at the weekend. But then our healer thought we meant another day, so they weren't available, so I just sodded it. Yeah, so someone asked me last night, oh, what key have you got? I was like, oh, I don't have one because I forgot to do it the previous week. Which means the key I get out of my cash next week won't even be a plus 15. So, you know, it'll be no use to anyone then either. Well, yeah, but you say you can easily get a 2k plus mythic score doing all dungeons up 15 or 16. Like, you take Seat of the Triumvirate, for example. I have never done that dungeon. At any level. Well, I've done it on Heroic when it first came out for the quest. But I haven't done it on Mythic. Anything. So I would not be the first to volunteer for such a run, because even on a plus 15, I wouldn't know what. I'd have to be constantly asking people, which would be no good in a pug. What do we do? And yes, that's also true. Some people may target certain dungeons as well, because they're doing it for the gear, not for... I mean, the rating, you could argue, is more of a thing for people who want to push the high keys. It's a bit like getting the realm bests on all challenge modes, isn't it? The best part about having the notes tab for friends is you can add a few people you run keys with, and they'll take a lower geared alt because they know you're not useless. Well, if you can have people do that, certainly. That's the best way to take your alts through, to actually have a group where you swap around as well. Like, you can do a few runs in a week. You can go with 3 mains and 2 alts and keep swapping them. As long as you've got all the roles covered, just keep swapping them around and make sure you get all your characters one. People are probably up for that. You found a lot of the complaints with Raid.io, though, are from people who only want to do Mythic Plus once a week and not push keys. Well, the thing, it's one of those statistical things, isn't it? I suppose people who properly push the keys are going to get a high one in a way that people who are not actually very good couldn't. So at that end of the bell curve, it's probably accurate. At the other end of the bell curve, it may also be accurate for people who basically don't do it at all. But if it's case, it's whether they don't do it because they can't do it or don't do it because they don't want to. But the people in the middle, it's much less likely to be valid. Because you can't tell the difference between someone who is attempting and failing to achieve certain dungeon keys, is attempting and failing but being carried to do certain dungeon keys, or is just not trying, like me. So it can't tell the difference between those 3 groups of players. So you could argue it only works for people who are regularly pushing in excess of plus 20s. Pre-BfA expansion will be like any other. The map will glow, then go and kill enemy faction. Hopefully we'll get a siege on Stormwind and Undercity. Ah, well. Well, are we into spoilers here? Because I do know something. Because it's not there at the moment, but when I first got into Alpha... so first time I got into Alpha, there was only one Alliance zone and one Horde zone. So I did the Alliance zone first time. I went, oh, that's fine. And then I thought to myself, I would like to go to Stormwind. And there was no way of getting to Stormwind. And someone suggested in the stream, well, the only way to get there at the moment is a mage portal. So I thought, oh, I'll make a mage then. So I made a mage, ported myself to Stormwind. And then I went to Stormwind Keep and burst into a conversation between Anduin and Jaina, which indicated an event that must happen in the pre-expansion patch. So there is a thing. We obviously know there are invasions, you know, faction v faction invasions taking place because of the cinematic. But there was a specific invasion mentioned that was not Lordaeron. You've seen someone asking for 2.5k for a +8. Well, people will ask. It's the same thing as asking for like gear score or item level for raids, isn't it? You know, doing a normal Antaurus need item level 970 plus. People will ask for what they think they can get, not because it's necessary, but because it gives them the best chance of having a smooth run. They're just trying to play the statistics to give themselves an easier time of it as possible. People who do pugs don't want challenge. It's like, no. Even people who would normally relish challenge do not want the challenge of doing a challenge with a challenging group. The dungeon boost from level 101 character. Oh, okay, yeah. Yes. It is annoying, actually. I get spectacularly annoyed with those boneheads in it. It put me off even doing... It put me off doing dungeons. Because the last time I encountered one of those fools who thought there were hot stuff going through it all, I never did another dungeon on a leveling alt again. I now, if I level an alt and want to do the dungeons for like quests, I will just boost them on one of my level 110 characters rather than sign up for a group now, just to avoid those pains in the ass. Well, it's not even that. They're pulling the whole dungeon. They got me killed. They weren't even very clever about it. They actually got me killed. Like, how does a twink tank manage not to have aggro on everything? They just didn't care. They were just steaming through everything, assuming that it was all dying in their wake. I got aggro on something that died, and I thought, well, you can res me then. Because they were in with a healer friend of theirs, and they didn't, so I just thought, sod it. I'll boost myself through these things. It'll be less annoying. But certainly, yeah, I mean, this is why it's better to join a guild, really, with like similar objectives in the game. Because people in pugs, there's no common purpose in a pug. They only care about themselves. This is certainly true. And that's why these sort of devices will sort of appear toxic, because they are. A pug is not a social experience. It's a highly divisive experience. Do I think Valajar could become a horde allied race with alliance get Culturans? No, I don't see why Valajar would join the horde. Really? Alliance get Culturans and horde get, you know, Zandalari trolls. That's the duality there. That's how that links in. Just like Alliance get Dark Iron Dwarves and horde get Magar Orcs. Don't argue in the chat either. It's all unnecessary. They don't really go together. They announce Kulturan and Magarorks at the same time, but they don't go together. The Kulturans and the Zandalari Trolls are the ones that go together because they're the races that you ally with the new content. What's my opinion on the Dwarf Paladin mats? They are very good, yes. They are actually really good looking. Much better than if they'd have made a ram mount some years ago. Shudder to think what that would have looked like. But yeah, the new ones look excellent. But unfortunately, as I say, I can't test them because although they've been data mined, they've not actually been activated in the Yeah, with me, it's not so much that I would rather not do lots of Mythic Pluses. I would rather not do it with... I'd rather do other things with the time. I like the idea of Mythic Plus dungeons. I think it's a good piece of content. But given that raiding is my main piece of content, I raid already quite a lot. And, you know, other times I like to do other things. Not least of which is things like this. Your favourite mat's still the level 60 Paladin mat? Absolutely. I still use that as my mat. Every now and then I switch to another one just for the sake of it. But I keep coming back to my level 60 Charger. I still remember when I first got it. It was such hard work. And I raced it all the way. So obviously you got it eventually in Scholarmance, which is quite north in the Eastern Kingdoms. Not right at the top, but fairly close to it. And I rode it all the way down to Booty Bay. So all the way down from Scholarmance to Booty Bay. Because, you know, it was my first ever epic mount. What time am I raiding? Well, today not at all, because otherwise it would be raid time now. But when our raid times are 6:30 UK time, which is half an hour before this started, and it goes up to 10 o'clock UK time. The ratings now, well, stats. See, I mean, at the moment, I'm doing with one of my groups at college, statistics, and one of the things we're having to do is to explain to them, in terms of evaluating statistics, that a statistical tool, if the data that goes in isn't valid, then the conclusion you're going to draw from it won't be valid either. So you always have to critically consider the data going in, which is why I look at something like Raid.io and say, okay, people pushing 20 plus keys, maybe it's valid for them. But people more in the middle between, say, 50 or even 10 to 20, less so, because you've got that mix of, you could have the same score on 3 different people. One of those people might be someone who's actually good, but doesn't want to do it. They just want to do their plus 15 each week, and that's it. Someone else might be someone who wants to push, and they just keep spamming groups, and they do it at times where people will just go, oh, just take whoever we can get, right? But they're ultimately being carried all the time. And then other people who, you know, are, do you know, I'd forgotten. There was another one. But what was the other one I thought of? Someone who's decent who just doesn't try very many or doesn't want to do very many. Someone who pushes them a lot and wants to do lots and lots of them, but ultimately gets caught out. Oh, yeah, the third... Oh, that was what I was going to say, yeah. No, the third one was if you end up with 2 of those people, it all goes to hell. Doesn't matter. But it can't tell the difference between the good one who doesn't do a lot and the not-so-good one who does a lot. Because you end up with the same score at the end of it. Super low chance to get a super Titanforge. If you do them enough, though, I mean, the people who always have the best item level are the ones who not only raid Mythic, but also do a lot of Mythic Plus. Because, you know, the chance can be really low, but if you do it enough times, you get the odd one. I mean, it's probably not worth it just for the time, but if you do it for other reasons, if you do your Mythic Plus for other reasons, every now and then you'll get one. But, I mean, all I would say, JD, in that case is, I mean, pugs are poisonous anyway. It's just better to do it, to join a guild that identify the content you want to do and join a guild that allows it. I think in BfA, I don't know much of the details about it. Maybe someone else knows. They're doing these community things, aren't they? Which is supposed to help facilitate people finding Mythic Plus groups. WoW Progress sort of has one, but it's not very good. I think there's supposed to be something coming in BfA where the game helps support you find Mythic Plus groups. Like permanent ones that you can do it week after week with. A little bit different to guilds. but I don't know the details. Oh, Discord. Yeah, Discord communities, I suppose, are pretty good for that sort of thing too. I don't know whether a dedicated Mythic Plus Discord, though, wouldn't end up being a bit elitist. Yeah, communities, but I don't know the details of how these communities things are supposed to work. But I think they are being done with a view to something. Can't think now. Secondary guild, yeah, that was the impression I got. So that might help people in BfA. I don't know. Maybe it will. I mean, if the intention is to help it, Blizzard presumably will put some serious effort into making it work. Obviously, it's in their interest too. Because if people are enjoying themselves, then they'll stay subscribed for longer, of course. You really want to see death count play more of a role in Mythic Plus. You feel it should be higher. No, the problem is then it could end up being a bit too dull if people are a little bit too cautious. You want a penalty for dying, but you don't want it to be excessive because then people play too safe. It's a bit more boring. Or they fail too often and it's still too boring. People don't do it. They need to encourage people to do it. There needs to be only just enough. The stick can't be like more severe than the carrot. Dungeons by their nature are fairly zergy. That's what I mean about comparing Mythic Plus now to Heroics and TBC. It's very difficult because the whole way you would approach every pack in TBC in a dungeon, in a Heroic dungeon, was very different to even very, the much more difficult Mythic Plus difficulties now. I mean, there are Mythic Plus difficulty keys that I would say are way more difficult than Heroic TBC dungeons. That you can still, on a lot of trash packs, just go in and beat them up. You could never do that. You always had to pull back. And crowd control what you could as well. And take your time over it. Obviously, the time factor with Mythic Plus means that you have to move sort of more quickly. What is this? Well, you mean the Shattered Halls one? The ones like from TBC that were particularly gruesome. Shadow Labs, I think, was the one. If you were to ask someone, even like the guild I was in was a good guild. It was a good guild. We had good, very, very good players in it. If you were to say to them, I need to go and get this item, and there was a healing mace from Shadow Labs, can I have a group for Heroic Shadow Labs, please? You could get people to do it with you, right? But do you know what? You would not have, you couldn't just ask in guild and get a load of volunteers. You would have to ask and you would have to whisper people and guilt them into going. Because Shadow Labs was not only fairly brutal at times, it was long. Shattered Halls was mostly okay because Shattered Halls, again, you were encouraged to rush. The only part where you really slowed down in Shattered Halls, there's two parts, I suppose. One was with those practices that went off to the left, because you'd wait for some of the soldiers to be on low health and then pull them, because if they were all on full health when you pull them, that would be fiendish. So there'd be some pausing there, and then when it came to dealing with these stealth assassins, leading up to the penultimate boss and then of course to the last boss, you'd show a bit of caution there. Although when I was there it wasn't as bad, because if I healed as a paladin, I wasn't as... It wasn't like if we had a priest healer, because then those assassins would sap the tank and then mug the priest. and just smash them in the face. I had plate. Because I wasn't one of those, you know, there were paladins that wore cloth in TBC. I have no idea why. They just had no dignity. Collaboration now coming on speculation. Won't require tinfoil hat. I don't think so. Remember talking about CC and marking mobs pretty much every heroic dungeon in TBC. Yeah, but it did. CC was it was much more standard, and there was no time pressure apart from Shattered Halls was the only one where there was any time pressure because you got the bonus if you got to the end before the person was executed. Well, and even that wasn't there at the start of TBC. I think that came later. Yeah, people. Yeah, there might be some crowd control every now. It depends on the affixes. Depends on the group, the dungeon. There might be some in a Mythic Plus, but not much. It's not standard, I don't think, really. What if Blizzard makes item level better than secondary stats? With, well, they already are doing. They already. To be fair, some of the changes they've already made in Alpha this week, which have gone underreported because it's all mathsy, you know, theory crafting stuff, which most people are not interested in. So they actually have already done some good work on that. Although they did, you know, contradict themselves by doing the global cooldown thing, but never mind. And someone else has already said this. Titanforging, yeah, in theory, Titanforging makes that a bigger problem for someone who doesn't get Titanforged pieces and a bigger boost for someone who does. Sure. Yep. Yep. But Blizzard like Titanforging because it encourages people to do content that they wouldn't ordinarily do. In other words, content that's below them. It encourages Mythic Raiders to keep doing heroic. It encourages people in general to do previous tiers, content, and stuff like that. I mean, people still do Emerald Nightmare, don't they? Just to try and in the vain hope of getting a Titan forged, you know, bloodthirsty trinket or something, whatever the hell it is. I don't think as many do it now because the chances of getting that decently Titan forged is now increasingly slim. In fact, it could be argued you've got a better chance getting it from the Vindicar vendor, haven't you? But still. There's a much more social game back in TBC. I don't know, because my only experience... Like, by then I was very much in a raiding mindset guild. So, although I used to pug a lot in vanilla, I didn't really in TBC to the same extent. I occasionally did, but the reason I used to pug dungeons in both TBC, but most especially vanilla, was for recruitment purposes. Because what you had in vanilla, you couldn't change realms until right at the end. In TBC, realm transfers were possible, but, I mean, first of all, it was relatively new, and it cost money. And if you transferred, you were stuck for 3 months. So there was still in TBC more of a realm community than exists now. Which meant that you had a good chance of, you know, when you were doing these pug dungeons, you still formed your own groups as well. So you were forming it with people on your server. So you would do it. And if you found someone decent, you would basically nick them. Headhunting, I call it. Poaching, some other people call it. But, you know, I would basically nick, you know, good players because you would get to see them in dungeons. And doing dungeons was a good test of skill that was directly comparable to raiding as well. In fact, like for tanks especially, tanking dungeons was harder than tanking raids. So if you found a good tank in a dungeon, you grabbed them. If you needed a tank. Or you had a shit one. Tanks could only effectively hold threat on so many targets, but they could also only hold threat on so many... Like, if you had targets that did lots of nasty physical dots or debuffs or something like that, you wouldn't even want a tank tanking a whole group of mobs. So it wasn't even just about holding aggro on them. They could tear through tanks. You know, there were some... you know, a whole group sometimes was too much for even a well-geared tank. Depending on the type of mobs, of course. Whereas now, that's much less the case. Because tanks have got... For a start, tanks have got more defensives, I think, now. They've got more control over their own health. You know, they can look after their own survival to a greater extent than they could then. Plus, you've got the healer as well. And healers also have more options. As you know, they've got more variety of defensives and healing spells than they used to. 15 minutes from 109 to 108 and 109. Oh, that's boring. Boring. You're going to have to do the quests anyway. Well, I suppose we don't have to. But no, I would steer well clear from pugs. Well, the only thing I used to quite like for getting boosted with levelling was the Azerite Valley call to arms, which they don't seem to do anymore. You thought healers were stronger in TBC? Only relatively, because they had to be, because if you needed healing, the healer was the only one to do it. Whereas nowadays, tanks, as I say, can manage their own health better. But in other respects, I'm not so sure. After HFC, Blizzard said tank survival is way too high and they would decrease it. Well, okay. I vaguely remember them saying that now that you've said that. That being said, I would argue, well, I have seen, in fact, tanks survive for some considerable time in a Mythic Plus dungeon, even killing bosses after other people have died. You know, or most especially after the healer has died. I have seen tanks last a good long while. So their survival, I would argue, in the hands of skilled players, or skilled tanks at any rate. I'm not sure how much skill there is actually in tanking. I think it's a lot better than in vanilla. I think it's, well, it was easy in vanilla. It was easy in TBC to play a tank as well. Even I tanked some progress in TBC, for Christ's sake. But, you know. But in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, they can live a long time. In a dungeon. Your 14th 110. See, I used to have multiple of certain classes in WoD because there was nothing to do at level cap once you've done your LFR. Whereas now there is. I don't think I would want more than one of any class in Legion. You're about to start a tune on blacksmithing. Should you wait for BfA and Prof Squish to 200? No. No point. You might as well get started. Don't do any harm. Every time the Dark Moon Fair comes up, I mean, I keep forgetting to do this. Every time the Dark Moon Fair comes up, I have multiple characters when I'm not really trying on their professions at all. But you should at least go and get the +5 from doing that. You know, I mean, how many? We've got a good six months left. That's +30 levels from the Dark Moon Fair. Because profession leveling works differently in BfA as well. It is still worth doing it in the meantime. I mean, don't go spending a load of gold on it, obviously. But you might as well do a bit now and then. In TBC, your output as a priest healer is basically limited by your mana. Could dump all your mana in like 20 seconds, have your entire... pretty much unkillable. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't know. I was a paladin. I didn't run out of mana. I was fine. Oh, you're just using them for mission gold. I can't be asked. I mean, the thing is with Legion, it's been quite good for the main character, but I can't be asked doing anything on else. It's just too much. Because you think about what you should do to even get it at an acceptable level, and you just think, you know what? I can't be asked. Cannot be asked. Right, I'm going to try and change this title again. No one said anything since then, but... I don't know why it gets like this sometimes. Oh, the shared map with engineering. Yes, yes. So there is. I was looking at that on Friday. So there's a mount that engineers and blacksmiths can make, but they each make a different bit of it. So the blacksmiths make the chassis, and the engineers make the engine, and you combine them together. You make the thingy mount with the. It looks like a goblin-inspired engineering mount actually, but it also includes blacksmiths. And there's different coloured versions of it as well. I assume they all come from crafting, but I don't know. Also fun to play different characters. It is, but again, it's the having 2 of one that's the weird thing. I mean, I had 3 paladins in WoD. I think I had 3 druids as well, somehow. I don't know why. And I had 2 monks, other things as well. And I had obviously 1 of everything, but you know, 2 and 3 of other things. Enhancement Shaman's fun. Enhancement Shaman is actually quite fun. Your engineering plus blacksmith. Hope that makes you some dollar. Well, any profession. I've actually been thinking recently about how professions have. I've gone all blurry. How professions have panned out in Legion, and you know, various pros and cons of it, and how it might pan out in BfA. But ultimately, if you can capitalise in the first couple of weeks from your professions, then you can make a ridiculous amount of gold. If you can't, then it very quickly becomes, unless you're willing to spend a lot of time messing about in the auction house, not really worth it. Except I suppose in BfA, everyone's going to be able to break down their gear into raw materials. So resources will be able to come from, there's an extra source there for resources. So everyone, I guess, will be able to do that and get some gold, which I suppose will drive down the cost of raw materials, which is always better for the people who produce things. When they added more character slots, you restored... Okay, I see. Well, yeah, the good news there is they did say that every time they add more allied races, you'll get an extra character slot for the realm, not on your account. So when they add the next... Well, there's another 4 coming. They might not all come out at the same time, but that'll be another 4 character slots on the realm. With so much gold in the game, could Blizz create a token just like Game Time, but for server transfer and race change? Haven't they already done that? They've done it for some services. You can use WoW token for some services, but I can't remember which ones. I thought race change might have been one of them. I'm not sure though. But like at the moment in Legion, I mean, all my characters have professions on them, and they were all maxed out from the previous expansion. But for example, I haven't done anything with tailoring. I haven't even really done much on engineering, and what's put me off is the quests, right? Because I can't be asked doing the quests on all my characters. Oh yeah, so you can turn WoW takers into... Yeah, I thought you could... So you can use it for all those services. So there you go, they've already done it. £49 for 110 boosts. Yeah, 6 months sub. Well, that's the thing, you see. Now, I've no objection to a level boost costing quite a lot. My objection comes when it's realm transfers, because you don't pay much less than that for a realm and faction transfer. Which is a little bit annoying. But I mean, I would still prefer it if they expanded the online store a little bit with cosmetic items and made something of the currency so that you get some currency automatically with your subscription, like you do in a lot of other MMOs. Because that way, you know, let's say you subscribe for 6 months, it could give you enough for a realm transfer, say. They might actually retain more players then. That means they still get to sort of charge for realm transfers, but at the same time, you don't want to see a cash shop at all. It's not be anything that you'd need to have, but the option, the benefit of it is it means that if you need to, let's say you join a guild and then your server goes dead. Loot boxes, no, not loot boxes. Loot boxes is a different thing. But, so your server's dead, so you need to realm transfer or stop playing the game because you want to raid in a decent guild. For some people, they will just stop playing the game because it's just too much, especially for multiple characters. Whereas, if you get some currency each month, with your subscription, then, you know, as long as you're not transferring all the time, you should have built up enough credit to be able to have that pay for your transfer. So I think they would retain more subscribers then. There isn't a loyalty scheme. No, you're right. There is none at all. And it's madness. I don't understand why there wouldn't be. Because especially, like, in order to keep the game going, they need to retain players. They've already shown that they don't really put a lot of effort into getting new players in. Obviously, new players do keep joining because it's such a massive game still. But they don't really put a lot of effort into it. So they need to put some effort into retaining, stopping the leaks if they can't keep topping it up. On the topic of quality of life changes, the mission table in BfA needs to have a retreat option for multi-day missions when you send heroes out to do something that's stupid, blah, blah, blah. Now, where you say here, the stupid critical mission pops up, you have to wait days to continue a story. No, they have said, Ian Hazakostas has promised, there is no content time-gated behind the mission table. There is not going to be anything with the mission table where it stops a story or a quest or something like that because you've got to wait several days for a thing. That's not going to happen, they said. They said that the mission table is going to play a much smaller role in BfA than it has in the last couple of expansions. And there is no content time-gated behind it. Blizzard should be doing something about these dead servers. Well, they should be getting rid of servers. Not servers, obviously, we want servers. They should get rid of realms, is what I actually meant to say. That would be better. It takes away from the game. They make enough. They make enough cash thing. You have to be a bit careful with that. It's a business with shareholders. You can never really say they make enough money. There's no such thing as a business making enough money. You know, a business has a duty to its shareholders to make as much money as it can. Legally, of course. Legally. Not like some of the British businesses that have gone under and then it's turned out they've basically stolen the pension fund. That's a different thing. That's bad. Guild banks should pay transfers then. They can't always afford it. Blizzard shouldn't be putting people onto dead servers then saying, sorry, this is your problem. Well, no. But again, the whole server management thing is the issue. But they would potentially lose a huge source of revenue if they just made super realms. The hardest thing after making the Mage Tower and all of your arts is the Balance of Power quest line. I haven't done the Balance of Power quest line. The thing is, because I'm still stuck on the Emerald Nightmare bit, I need to go back and do it on LFR. Because by the time I could be asked to do the quests in the Archway, and because what annoyed me, there was a certain bit of it you had to do a quest in Archway and Court of Stars, And I was, for ages, had the bit for the arc where you had to pick something up near one of the bosses in the arcane bit. But you couldn't do it. You had to do it on Mythic, but you couldn't do it on Mythic Plus. Which was annoying, because I only ever did it on Mythic Plus. And so it was ages before I eventually said, look, can a couple of people just come with me? I just want to do this on Mythic. And so I did. So now I'm on the Emerald Nightmare. So obviously by the time I did it, we'd finished with Emerald Nightmare, so I wasn't doing Mythic Emerald Nightmare anymore. So I'm way behind on it. So maybe this Easter I should do. I have a bucket list basically of things I want to do before Legion. Balance of Power is one of them. Maybe this Easter I should start to cross some of those off. Well, TBC achievements, you naturally got those achievements if you did the content you wanted to do. The biggest difficulty was if you started the expansion late. If you started it at the start of the expansion, it was fine because you naturally attained those achievements. If you came in late, you were basically buggered. You had no chance of catching up. It's all right Blizzard putting in all that catch-up gear for Valor points or Justice points or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember now. That's fine for the gear, although it wasn't stunning, but it was, you know, no good if you didn't have the, because there was a big long quest line as well, and if you couldn't kill Kel'Thas, and not many people wanted to re-kill Kel'Thas, which was also really crap. I don't know why, but they didn't. So yeah, it's not like you could apply to a guild and go, oh, if they were in Black Temple, because it'd be like, well, are you attuned to Black Temple? No. Well, you can't join us then. Even though they could easily boost them through the bosses they'd need, if they'd caught up themselves with the quest line. But the answer would be no. Have group will travel was just extremely lazy. I mean, you talk about before Mythic Plus or before Challenge Mode came in, you know, you talk about the situation where people didn't even know where dungeons were. Have group will travel stopped them even knowing where bloody raids were. There were some people, when I came back to the game, and the first like tier was Dragon Soul, so I went to Dragon Soul. There were some people, I shit you not, in my guild who did not know where it was. Because they just waited for their mass summon. I mean, it's possible that some still don't know where raids are now, because they just wait for their Warlock summon. There's maybe some people who've done Mythic and Taurus, all the bosses, 11 out of 11. It wouldn't surprise me if there's one or two people who do not know where the raid is. There might be the odd one in my guild. Because there's some people that just always wait for a summon. Being too greedy, yes, of course it can backfire. You've got to bear in mind Blizzard are not milking the game for everything they can get. They're not EA. But at the same time, they, you know, the people who... the developers don't actually really make decisions ultimately. The decisions are made by people who have to report directly to, effectively, shareholders. In any such situation like that, most of the shareholders may not even be people who play the game, bear in mind. You might get the odd gamer who buys a share or two just for the hell of it, but the majority of it will be held by, well, in likelihood, investment groups. And they just want to see a good return, that's all. When you first join the game, it defaults you to a small server with needs player or low pop. That's setting someone that has no idea about MMOs or servers up for failure. It is indeed, yes, because it sounds quite good, doesn't it? Oh, there's not many players here. You won't be crowded out. Isn't that nice? Yes, it does. You're right. You think you heard most allied races and futures won't start low level. I bloody well hope not. At the same time, I don't see it. I can't see them letting you start much higher level. because there is still a learning curve to be had with getting your abilities. You don't want too many abilities all at once. For balance of power, when you say bop, you have to be very careful, because I read bop as blessing of protection. Oh, that reminds, yeah, in terms of like reading things and thinking it's something else, someone posted something on Discord and it was like a poster in an area that's clearly meant to show inclusivity for people with Down syndrome, because it says, we love our homies with extra chromies. But I just read it as the Gnome Dragon Chromie. That's how much I play World of Warcraft. But anyway, for balance of power is what I assume you mean. You have to do Emerald Nightmare on normal or heroic. You can't get the quest item on LFR. I think you can, because I think I have. But you may be, I can't be certain now. I'll take your word for it. Or maybe they've changed it. Oh, I don't know. All right, if I have to do it on normal, then I'll have to bloody solo it or something. I'm not pugging it. We'll see. I might pug it. I'll have to see how much more I've got left to do. But I'm pretty sure I've already started gathering it after I stopped doing Emerald Nightmare. Has to be normal, does it? Bugger. Don't want to pug it. Because now what you're going to be telling me is I'll have to pug other raids as well. Like Nighthold. Why didn't they just let me complete the quest on Mythic plus Archway? I don't understand why I couldn't complete the quest on Mythic plus Archway. That's so annoying. Alright, maybe I'll have to do some pugs then. Use the boost on some new players, Realm. When you've done one allied race to max level, rest should start at level 100. The problem is that, again, it's based on class, isn't it? You could level a particular class. I mean, you must have at least one class to be able to even access the allied race, to have done the achievements and rep on. And then you do the allied race. That might only be your second character. And then you do another one of a different class. The argument is if it starts at level 100, it starts off with all its abilities. You know, do you really want that flood of abilities? I mean, some people will be fine with it, more veteran players, but others will not. So, you know, the leveling does serve a purpose. So there should be some. I know I say that it should be a lot less leveling, which it should, but you need some. You need enough to learn how to play the thing. Nighthold can only be done. Well, again, if Emerald Nightmare can only be done on normal heroic, I'm guessing the same applies to Nighthold as well, yes. Sorry, Allcraft talks about what? They want what in Mythic Plus? What do they want in Mythic Plus? What have I missed? Doing the dungeon quests. Oh yeah, well, because it's obvious. Like, literally, it's what held me back. I would have the balance of power now because I did the raids enough times with my guilds to have got all the bits. It's just that by the time I'd finished, I was behind with balance of power because after the first week of Mythic, why would I do Mythic? Normal Mythic plus 0 of any dungeon. You did Mythic plus as soon as Mythic plus was released. So, and because I didn't have the quests at the point at which it was the Mythic week, because I was still trying to level and gear both my characters and fit it around work and everything else, then, yeah. Take my patrons for balance of power. They might not want to do it. A lot of them are American, they can't do it. Thoughts on multi-class concepts from Final Fantasy? Oh, no. There's already too many specs. There's already too many specs. You know, they don't need any more variations of classes. There's too many as it is. Raising the level cap each expansion, they have pickle of 6 games with the content to the end game. Yeah, but this is the thing. There's no reason. I don't get why they do what they do. Is the alpha segregated by US and EU? No, they're not. They're shared. They're all. I mean, all the servers are on American. So if you're in EU, as I am, you have higher latency playing on it because the servers are physically located in North America. You wouldn't take a Ret Pally on Mythic Plus. What's wrong with you? Awesome. Absolutely awesome in Mythic Plus. You're having a laugh. Not so good on the dungeons, admittedly, where there's a lot of leg work to be done. But where you go from trash pack to trash pack, superb. We do loads of AoE and can switch casually between good AoE and good single target. And we don't die very often. If we know what we're doing. You still have 11 out of 20 night shards to get. I don't know even what that is because I'm probably not even at that point. Maybe I should have a look. I'm just going to log on and see what my balance of power status is. That's disappointing you can't do an LFR. Although, hang on a minute, balance of power isn't one of the ones that goes away when BfA comes out, is it? The only skins they've said you can't get are the ones for +15, the +15 Mythic achievement, and the Mage Tower. The rest of it, they said you can still get. Oh, what? It's not letting me launch WoW. What the hell? Oh, piss off. Okay, let's close the old BattleNet down. No sign of rolling secondary professions into primary profs in Alpha. No. It's still the same as it is now, minus first aid. And tailors now have bandages, and alchemists have the anti-venom stuff. Why? It's not let. What the hell? Something went wrong when trying to launch the program. Is there something actually wrong trying to log in? Let's see if Blizzard support have tweeted about anything. I'm not seeing anything. Sorry, let's have a look. Fenrir with the blood sent in Halls of Valor and Warlord Progress. Oh, well, that's just individual utility. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Our utility is actually okay in Mythic Plus as well. Have I plugged my Sunday gig yet? What Sunday gig? What am I doing on Raiding on Sunday? Unless we actually kill the boss before Sunday. We are actually at the point where we might kill a boss. For the first time in God knows how long. I can't remember the last time I killed a boss. Alchemists needed more consumables. I don't think they're going to need any extra consumables. Oh, I love female dwarfs. I would absolutely get a female dwarf if I had the inkling to roll even more else. Ginger female dwarf. Raid radio. No, I'm not doing raid radio because basically they got back to me and I said, well, you know, your best window's Easter. And they said, what about Sunday? And I said, well, it depends what time because I raid at these times on a Sunday. And they went, yeah, Okay. So, no. Whoops. That can go away. I was looking for something. I've forgotten what. No, it's not letting me log into WoW. What the hell? Hang on. Let's just click on the... gives you a link. For more help, click on this. Fail to launch a critical file. Please close all other applications. No, I'm not doing that. Temporarily deactivate my antivirus software. I'm not doing that. And try again. Piss off. Right, let's just... we'll take their final piece of advice, which is to log in as administrator. But yeah, I've never found anything lacking apart from running, across a lot of dead space in a Mythic Plus dungeon as a ret. Right, well I can't log in. That's excellent. Let's see if it'll let me log in to a different account. No, it's not having it. Could not find the game's executable file. What rot. Right, okay. Let's sort this out. World of Warcraft. We'll run it manual. What the hell? Well, yeah, I do have a speed set. If it's a very long, but it's just hassle. You'd rather bring a holy paladin than ret. You can bring both, one's DPS, one's healer. As I say, I'm not saying you can take the ret for the utility. I'm just saying it happens to be useful. You take them because they do shitloads of damage. And don't die. It's the don't die that's quite nice as well. Let's have a look. Where was I? I'm not going to be beaten by this. I'm going to find a way to open WoW. Why can't it find the executable file? Is it simple or something? Settings. It'll be in there, I suppose, won't it? Games. World of Warcraft. Battle for Azeroth. Well, that's the right bloody folder. What's up with it? The better DPS options? I don't know. Unless you're talking about very high keys, I've no experience of that. But even then, I'd be doubtful. I've not heard any of the rets who do push very high keys saying there's any issue with it. Right, let's try one of these. Aha. Sort of. Let me just move this. Oh, help. Here. I'm going to have to manually log into WoW. Probably needs, I need my authenticator. Holy should get a battle res. I don't think Holy needs a battle res. What is it on about? Did I put the password in wrong? Da 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 da. Aha, right, it's behaving itself. I must have typed the password in wrong. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's Again, I don't know in terms of what world first completing plus 26s or anything like that would say, but for the vast majority, let's just turn the old sound off here. I'm looking to check some chat out. Right, balance of power. Where would balance of power be? Artifact. I can't see it. What? Can't see the quest. I don't know which quest it is. What do I think about the advanced AI so far? Well, I don't really get to test it that much. It looked all right, actually. It did look okay. I'm not sure how advanced it really was. I can't work out. Where my thing is. Don't want that. The 2 artifact quests I've got, one of them, they're both for doing dungeons. Or maybe that is the bit I'm on. Maybe I'd done the Emerald Nightmare bit. Maybe that's it. So maybe I've got to do... Oh, I could solo these now, couldn't I? Suggested players 5. Yeah, I'll do it on my own. So I've got to do... Take Advisor Vandross's Eon Winder from the Archway on Mythic difficulty. Didn't I already do that? Well, I can go and do that at some point. And the other one is Vault of the Wardens. Recover a containment crystal from the Vault of the Wardens on Mythic difficulty. Oh, but I've got to finish that then. I don't like soloing Cordana. Never mind. That'll be what I presumably have to do then. So I'm up to dungeon bits. Again. So I suppose what I then have to do is then go into Nighthold, I suppose. I guess it won't be as bad doing Nighthold pugs. I wonder how many I'm going to have to do, though. That's the most useful CC utility. Doesn't work at all in some dungeons. What? Oh, well. Well, then you do the dungeons where it does work. Of course, Windwalkers in BfA are going to get their AoE stuns baseline. They get Ring of Peace and Leg Sweep as a baseline ability. As Blizzard decide to double down on the old AoE stuns, they said they're going to take it off loads of people, and it's going to be a niche thing for a smaller number. Pugging Mythic Naught is easy. I imagine that I could get into a Mythic Naught plug. Whether I'd want to is another. But I could possibly also solo it. It might be more fun to solo it. The problem is, of course, whenever you have to do these dungeon things, it always insists that you go and get the thing, but that you also kill the final boss. And if the final boss has to be summoned, or otherwise you know, for some reason you have to kill all the other bosses to get to it, which is generally the case, then you know, it means you have to do the whole thing. No, the alpha is at an early stage, but have you got a better idea on what you might roll as a main alt yet? No, I haven't played everything as a main alt. See, here's the thing. I will naturally be drawn to melee characters because I prefer that role. But what I'd really like... I mean, I need to identify at least 2 main alts to have. I need a herber and a miner to supply myself with the raw materials I need. And I need an alchemist and a scribe. I quite like a jewel crafter as well. Might need 3. It also depends on exactly when it comes out. Because, remember what I said, my money is on, what did I say, the 28th? Let me look again. My money is on the 28th of August as a release date. Because that's when I go back to work after summer. But if they, just for the sake of argument, bring it out a week before on the 21st of August, then that means I have the week before it comes out to level up my main character, level up, I could potentially level up 4 characters in that time, as without neglecting my gearing up of my main character. And of course, without the need for a split raid out, I only have to worry about gearing up 1 character. The difference a week would make. So, you know, in that case, I can afford to have 3 alts leveled up quite quickly for the purposes of professions. So then what I have to think about, whoever is my herber and miner needs to be the character that is happy going around the world mining and herbing, which means also needs to be the one that can beat things up. Traditionally, that's been my Death Knight. So it still may be. I tried Unholy DK last weekend, didn't I? Maybe I should try for another level or 2 Frost DK, see how that's looking. What else? So I played Warrior. Warrior's okay. I'm alright with Warrior. I'm not so keen on Rogue, but I have only played as one thing at the moment. Hunter is obviously fine. Hunter will be one of them. Hunter will definitely be one of them. I haven't given Mage a proper go yet. I'd like to give it a proper try with a Mage and see how that works, because that's a possibility as well. And then Monk obviously is looking pretty good. I already have a Monk that's my Alchemist at the moment, so that would be a natural one to roll into. Maybe it's also got Tailoring. Maybe I swap the Tailoring for Inscription, and that could work. Warrior's great because of the triple heroic leaps can still be equipped in BfA. It makes herbalism easy. Yes, maybe. Feral. Well, yes, as you know, interestingly you say that. My druid is also a herber and miner, but at the moment my druid is level 101, so I need to level that up. Maybe I level that up this. I'm only going to level up 1 character this Easter because I've got a load of channel stuff I want to do as well. In fact, I've got a huge list of jobs just to get done in my first 2 days off channel-wise. I've got a couple of experimental videos I want to do as well. Roll into, oh yes, very good. No, I missed that, Cliffado. I usually, when I pun, I usually do it deliberately. But no, sorry, I missed that one. Unless my subconscious was playing a joke. New dungeon in BfA. By the time they become heroic, will we have experienced all of them on normal? Not necessarily. It's difficult to say. Well, no, it's not difficult to say. They said at BlizzCon which are the leveling ones and which are the level cap ones. But at the moment in the alpha, only 3 of the dungeons are available. Might go with the Shaman. I'm not sure about Shaman for one of my main alts. Enhancement and Elemental sort of nice-ish. I'm okay. I quite like Resto for healing as well. So it's always appealing, but there's ultimately other classes I always end up preferring. I mean, I might make more of an effort to have one of my alts be a healer and one of them be a tank as well. In which case, for the tank, I might be inclined... I mean, there's a choice of 3, I think. Because I don't think I would want to be a Brewmaster tank. I don't really get on with them. But Guardian Druid is obviously a relatively straightforward one. Blood DKs I usually quite like. And Protection Warriors I usually quite like as well. So all of those are possibilities. In terms of healer, I'm not sure... Maybe Mistweaver Monk. I used to quite like playing Mistweaver in WoD. Annoying leveling on tomb with double crafting professions and seeing match you can't scavenge. Well, that's just the nature of the beast. That's why, you know, I have a character specifically for herbing and mining, and it's I make it an alt that I will be okay going around the world in, because I know I'm going to have to beat off mobs. At least in BfA, I shouldn't have to beat off enemy players, because I can just toggle myself PvE player, and they can do one. But yes, of course it is. At the moment, there isn't much gathering to be done. Like when I was trying it on Friday. Like there was a few mining nodes I could find. I couldn't find any herbing nodes at all, and none of the beasts were skinnable. Then when I did it on Saturday, all of a sudden I couldn't find any mining nodes, but there were some herbing nodes, and then later on I found some mining nodes as well. So it's all a bit. It's not very well implemented, the professions at the moment on the alpha. They've just put them in. You can sort of see what things you're going to be able to craft to begin with. So, which is, you know, quite nice, because I generally like my professions. I would say in Legion I've been less involved in professions, because the quest system that you have to run through, doing it on 1 or 2 characters is fine. Doing it on lots of characters is a ball ache, and I can do without it. Bizarre thinking about professions before max level in any expansion. Well, I really like them. When I play MMOs for the first time, I always take a long time to level up a character, because I keep up with the professions while I do it. That's like one of the things I do. It is why it took me 21 game days to level my first level 60, my paladin, in vanilla. Because I spent a lot of time in Ironforge trying to sell my enchants so that I could fund the next tranche of leveling my enchants, because obviously I couldn't get enough materials whilst leveling, enough reagents. So yeah, I had to actually sell them and then use the few silver I got from selling enchants, which you couldn't put on a vellum on the auction house at the time. You had to physically enchant, and then buy materials off the auction house, or buy greens with which to disenchant. But as often as not, at all points in World of Warcraft, it has generally been cheaper to buy the things further up the chain. So it's usually cheaper to buy enchants than it is the things the enchants are made of. And it's usually cheaper to buy the things the enchants are made of than the things you turn into the reagents. Could end up with gathering professionals being buffed with pop. Enable Blizzard needed to do something to encourage it. Oh, PvP. No, PvP can steer well clear of it. They've made... the thing is, it looks... I mean, they've had some elements of rethink with the professions, because all of the professions can now create equipment. Most of them can make weapons, but all of them can make some equipment. Like jewel crafters, or I mean, I suppose they've always had helms, but usually no one wears them. But they can make staves now, or in BfA they can. But I think the way to make them relevant, I think there's 2 ways to make them relevant, which I am going to, that's one of my tasks to do a video on that as well. But one of them is actually more consumables. Like Alchemist obviously stays relevant because it has consumables that you need on a regular basis. Jewel crafting stays relatively relevant. You don't need gems very often, but you do need them now and then. Same applies to enchant. Inscription again, you know, Vantus runes and tomes, sort of. But the ones that produce armor and stuff like that, phenomenally profitable and useful at the start of the expansion. Phenomenally useful then. Completely useless after a few weeks. Wad crafting was the best. I think I prefer Legion crafting. But there is an issue, again, when it comes back to crafting armor. Because you have no control over the stats you get from it, it's like Blizzard would have you think, well, that's fine, just craft something. If it's not got the stats you want on it, sell it on the auction house, use the money to buy the stats you do want. But one, there's no guarantee it's going to sell for anything close to the one that has the stats you want. And 2, the one with the stats you want might not be on the auction house. So that means you're going to craft after craft after craft after craft, wasting loads of money, reagents on it, by which time you might as well have just bought something, a BOE that you get from a dungeon, a raid rather, sorry. I mean, one advantage in WoD was the fact that you could buy it ready upgraded if you had the gold, whereas now you can't because you need Bloods of Sargeras to upgrade it. You can buy the Obliterate, but you need the Bloods yourself. Mount buff consumables are useful at the start of an expansion too. Yeah, they're still in as well. There's still hoof plates for blacksmiths. I think there's another one who gets something as well. I think leatherworkers get their barding. I think there was another one. I've forgotten now. But blacksmiths get the speed one, which is good. But the problem with it was, in Legion, you didn't get it very early on because you had to go through the quests, and the quests were gated behind certain levels. So you didn't get the hoof plates till quite high level, as I recall. Considering this is supposed to be a war-stroke battle-themed MMO, engineering could make some awesome weapons instead of pink goggles or pet trinkers. Imagine siege engines that throw Nominos, but they don't make those, unfortunately. Remember how in WoD you could cheaply re-roll and stop like calling them different things just to get past my filter. How in WoD you could cheaply re-roll the stats on armor weapons. Yes, you could. Yes, you could make something that would allow you to re-roll the stats, yes. Whereas now you're stuck with it. So that was an advantage in WoD. I would prefer it if there was something you could do to determine the stats, though. You know, like maybe it needed certain gems and you combine those gems in whatever order to make the certain stats. That would be better. I mean, maybe what they could do is they'd have to change the way crafting works a little bit, I guess, though. Maybe what you can do is you can combine the normal materials and you get random stats on it, or you could spend a little bit more and get certain gems, like 3 gems. Because if you get 3 gems, there's a lot of combinations of gems you can have. And it gets you the particular combination of stats. Makes it more expensive to craft, but you're guaranteed to get the craft you want. Could do something like that. JC Head was 935 with best, possibly best stats. TOS Mythic dropped 930. Yeah, but it was also probably a tier piece. I'd still take that one. I'm still... Oh, no, I'm not. I am still wearing some 930. I'm wearing 930 shoulders still because that's my tier 20. I have a 945 helm, which I'm not happy with. Tailoring gets a saddle. Yeah, I can't... There was another... It might be tailoring. There is another... There was another profession that got something for mounts. There will be a day where every humanly possible variation of that race will be blacklisted. Not until Twitch starts getting a bit smarter with its filter, it won't. I don't know. I don't remember what I'm thinking of. Can I actually find it? Hold on. Where did I save the images? I saved the images of more of the interesting ones. Let's see if I can find it. New builds. Professions. Well, saddles, yes, are supposed to be made of leather. So I am informed. I'm not a horsey person. But so I would be led to believe. But then again, it's World of Warcraft. Any number of things can happen. For example, as I've already said, a leather worker in Legion can turn a pile of skins, which is basically bits of dead animal, into a mount, which is a living animal. Oh yeah, leatherworking got the diving suit and helm, didn't it, as well? Let's see, Tailor. Tailors get the cloaks with the special stuff on it. Yes. Oh, Bear Tartar is fantastic. I sometimes have been known to use that in dungeons for the speediness. Right, you know, I'm just going to go through all of them. Not that one. Oh yeah, and about the transmute meat to pet. Although people did point out that you can get that in Legion, which I didn't really. Again, my absence from professions has been so much that I don't even know what's in Legion, which is pretty embarrassing. Shouldn't a diving helm be made of metal? Well, this one's not. This one's made of leather. No, it's not that one. I may not have sold. I may not have put it on. My next cooking video. I have got some ideas for cooking videos, actually. I do need to sort that. I have no excuse for not doing that this Easter. So, yeah. Let me see now. I'm not doing that. But I'm not planning on doing Bear Tartar now. Apart from anything else, like, obviously I can't get hold of bear meat. It would effectively be steak tartare, but I'm not a fan of raw meat. Like, I can cook steak rare, or I prefer it medium rare. Yes, fine. But I want it cooked, right? I don't like the idea of just basically making a patty out of raw mince and then cracking a raw egg into it and calling that food. Oh, there was a really good... Oh, hold on a minute. I've got to find this. This was really awesome. Where is it? Let me find this. Speaking of Gnome and cooking. Let me find this. Is really good. Come here. Oh, where's it gone? Come here. Right then, so media file, BfA. I like this one. It had bear sausages. Well, yeah, I mean, if the meat is very lean, you're supposed to add your own source of fat into it. Like, usually what you do, like, for example, sometimes when you're making meatballs, if you make using pork or something, what you would actually do is cut it in with some beef mince or something like that. But, no, I don't just take off the horns and wipe its arse. That's an Alf Garnet line, isn't it? But, no, I don't particularly... even want rare steak, like medium rare is how I would do my steak. But not so steak tartare doesn't appeal to me at all. I don't understand. I don't understand it. Why is he a male? Well, it's a very good question, because you know what, in MOP I thought she was a girl. I thought Gnome was a girl. I thought I had a female student. Apparently not. No, I would not eat gnomes either. They're lightly diseased. I was looking for something else there, wasn't I? Engineering. Oh yeah, there's some very nice engineering stuff. The mount motivator. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. The engineering electroshock mount motivator. Increases mounted movement speed by 10% for 10 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. Increased motivation may cause your mount to become disorientated. And then the caption underneath says, some animals were harmed in the design of this device, but they're better now. Mostly. May have been that one. Then there's the boats, the surface skimmer, but I think I'll just use my Azure Strider. The Jewel Crafting plus 5% experience gem. I'm quite curious about how that'll work. Unfortunately, I can't prospect ore at the moment in the alpha, so until I can, I can't really test that out. Oh yeah, this is one of my favourite ones. So as well as blacksmiths being able to make skeleton keys again, scribes will be able to make them. Scroll of unlocking. So we're going to make keys out of paper. It's always good for a laugh. If mounts work like that in real life, that you couldn't summon them out of thin air. Well, it's magic. World of Warcraft exists in a world of magic. No, I think it must have been the engineering I was thinking about. There isn't another one here. The mount motivator must have been what I was thinking of. Well, that's, yes. I mean, I think that's what you're supposed to do. Write a spell on a piece of paper that will magically unlock the chest. Yes. But it just amused me, the idea that you could turn a piece of paper into something that would unlock the chest. Because if you were just putting a spell onto it anyway, you might have to wonder why, unless the scribe was a rogue, they couldn't just open the lock without putting it on the paper. Presumably putting it on the paper is for the benefit of other people. But the scribe who creates it must have enough magic to be able to do it without writing it down. I would have thought anyway. But what do I know? But yes, it could be some very, very impressive form of origami. And then the scrapper. I probably should have opened the video with the scrapper, actually, because it's probably the best bit. But yeah, the idea that... See, I, as an enchanter, always have... I can just disenchant any piece of gear that I no longer need or just didn't need in the first place. So whenever anyone's moaning about their mythic cash giving them something useless every week, I can at least disenchant it. It's worth more gold than the vendor price. But people will be able to turn it to something more useful in the next expansion, presumably. I'm assuming it will work on all gear. At the moment in the alpha it doesn't, but I think that's just because it's not all properly implemented. I would be disappointed if it could only work on crafted gear. That would be disappointing. But it is possible, of course, because it might be the equivalent of, like, you know, breaking things down that we have in Legion. Have they changed Outlaw much? I haven't played as Outlaw. You would hope so, wouldn't you? But I haven't actually looked at Outlaw yet. What's my accent? I am from Yorkshire, yes. So, very possibly. But I've still got quite a lot of specs I haven't played yet on the alpha, which is why usually what I do is streaming. Guys, I have recently been streaming alpha on Friday evenings and Saturday afternoons. And it tends to be Friday evenings is where I test the new features on the new build. And then Saturday afternoons has tended to be, right, I've done that now. Let's just level up again with a different class or different spec or something like that. So eventually I'll have got round to all the ones I would even consider, but I have yet to do all of them. Oops. What the hell? There's someone, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at someone sort of suggested. Sean B, yeah. Oh yeah, well he's from South Yorkshire as well, I think, which is the same place, close to where I come from. I know he's, I think he probably comes from Sheffield because he's a Blades fan, which is like one of the Sheffield teams. What, because it's got EA in the middle of it and it's pronounced differently? Yes. Yes, he would be quite similar because he's from South Yorkshire, the same as I am. I think his is a bit more... His is a bit more Yorkshire though, because he has longer vowels, which tends to be more sort of into proper Central Yorkshire. Whereas I'll say no. Whereas when you have a broader Yorkshire accent, you'll tend to say no. So I'm just looking at something. I'm missing interest. I hate it when I miss interesting conversations. What's going on? Someone's talking about devs. Oh my god. Has someone said something again? I don't know where that conversation starts. I'll have to catch up with it in a minute. I mean, it's coming towards the end now, so I'll do the usual thing. Give a couple of minutes if people have got any last little things they want to throw in here. And then I'll sort of close it down, and I'm going to catch up with this conversation, which might have things of interest or it might not. I don't know. Can never tell. Half the time it's something stunningly interesting. Like, for example, that the global cooldown is going to stuff haste over. And then half the time it's talking about cats or something. But, okay, we'll take that as a nicer finish there. 15 minutes over, not too bad. Well, yes, Geordie's is a slightly different language, really. I'm only relatively au fait with it because I've got family from Newcastle, so I grew up sort of with it a little bit. But anyway, yes, thanks for coming on. I'll be on tomorrow with the guild raid, but I shall also be in a much more happy state because I might, if there is a new build out and it's out towards the end of the raid, I might do a little bit of extra streaming on that. If it's not out by then I won't, obviously. Because I'm still going to have to go to bed at a sensible time to get up for my... if I have to be in for the Warcraft Chronicles arriving. But yes, thanks for coming on, everyone. And until next time, I'll see you later.